Welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast, a weekly show about the entrepreneurial journey and making it big in any industry. We're your hosts, Joe White and Kane Daniel.
Welcome to the podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Adam Ross. Hi, Adam.
Hey, how you doing, Kane? Good to see you.
I'm good, thanks. Great to see you. Adam is the president and principal broker of NewBorrow. He has over 25 years experience in management and sales. He joined the mortgage industry with a focus on coaching, strategic planning, and customer empowerment. So Adam, again, welcome and thanks for being here. I guess maybe first just give us a little bit of background on you, sort of your origin story and what your journey was to get into the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. I thought about this is the only question that I read off the top sheet. I told you off camera that I don't like, and you're the same. We just kind of have a conversation today, and that's how our podcasts are, and I think that's the real strength. And this is the only one I looked at, and I thought, man, how do I answer this? How much time do you have? Right? Like,
yeah, all the time you want.
The origin story or the reasoning behind NewBorrow is I'm not the president, I'm not the principal, I'm a member. We joke all the time. I'm not the president. I'm a member. I am a guy who had a business, lost a business. I've had credit struggles, and when I was going through those tough times, and I needed a second mortgage, it was controlled back then by my lawyers. It wasn't a place like NewBorrow or some of my really healthy competitors. You could reach out to as a homeowner and say, "Hey, I'm not so sure what I need to do here. Could you help me?" Instead, I got directed to a lawyer. I got faxed a document. I signed something. I don't even think I got my house appraised at that time. Next thing you know, I'm getting a demand notice to pay, and I went to my parents and I was like, what did I do? Is this how it works? And they were like, yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of, you borrowed money from a lawyer and it needs to be paid back or they're going to make you sell your house. And I thought to myself then, and this was long before I got into the industry, like, there's got to be this is like your house. This is a big education thing, this piece that's missing from here, because not everybody's sophisticated financially. I certainly wasn't. I learned a lot along the way, and this company is built. The origin story is, I pass all those lessons I learned that the hard way onto all of our staff, onto my team, and then we share those experiences that we've learned in the past decade with our client base. Now, that's the long version. The short version is NewBorrow is here where it is today because I was told that I could never do it.
Dude, I want to hear more about that because that sounds interesting. I also know that NewBorrow, you guys do things a little bit different than most brokerages out there. We've talked about this before. But just backing up first, were you, before you started in the industry, had you done anything else before that, like previous roles, jobs?
Yeah. I had the pleasure of working with my father, and we owned car dealerships at that time, and I was in the car business. I always told him I'd never be in the car business. I don't want nothing to do with it. And eventually, over time, I had the opportunity to work with my father. He trained me in sales, something that really propelled my career. I was in radio and TV broadcasting then, and I did not want to do anything with sales. Things progressed and things went not the direction we had planned in the family business. And I was working in a gym and wearing track pants to work every day, and I have kids, and I thought to myself, this is a really small window. Like, if I don't figure my life out, and I love the gym and I love training clients, and it was a really rewarding experience, but there's a real finite window where that's going to end. So I'm very grateful for clients that I had that were in the industry. And at that time I was thinking I'm going to go and be a real estate agent. That's where I really thought that I thought I'd have some success. And they talked me out of that. I was introduced to the world of brokering. And that was the first time I heard, and I understand today, but I'm grateful for those words where they said, "Ross, you're never going to be able to do this business." And that kind of lit a fire under my ass, and I thought, you know what? Yeah, I can.
Who told you that? What was that conversation?
just casual conversation, and they asked me what my future plans were, and I was doing well there, and I just said, at the end of the day, I'd like to own one. I learned a lot of hard financial lessons myself, and I'd like to get into the business and be a broker. Sometimes in our industry as principal brokers, and I tell people this in the interview process all the time, this industry is set up still for the principal broker to be in full control and make the money, so to speak. And that's not how we do it at NewBorrow, and that's not how I started NewBorrow. I started it with the complete opposite mindset, that is the agent is the most important person in the brokerage, and how do we solve the struggles and the problems that agents have. And that conversation was, very uncomfortable. It didn't make me feel the greatest, but I am grateful for it today. I would shake hands with those individuals and thank them for, putting the gasoline in the engine to get me to where we are today, for sure. And it wasn't I heard that twice, which was really interesting. When Freedom Lending, which is what we used to be called, same guys, same ownership, we were rebranded in 2019, which is another side story. But when we were in the early days of Freedom Lending, and we were struggling. You see, this is the interesting thing about the business, and you see it now with the growth that the industry as a mortgage brokerage world's exploded. Mm-hmm. Because when I was in the industry, it was small. It wasn't big. And it was, I talked to some of the pioneers like Jerry Weinkraft from Mortgage Help Today, and Jay and Bobby from Canada Land, and my good friend Sean and Carla from Matrix Mortgage. Like, those people were in the early days of kind of creating these brokerages, these brands that you could reach out and call and help. And I said to a company that's what we were going to do. And they called us into a meeting. They were a lender, and they were like, no, you're never going to be able to do that. Why would you want to do that? Just come work for us. Come work for the lender. There's not enough business out there. There's not enough people to help. And again, that's the second time I remember getting in the elevator with my partner at that time, and we looked at each other. And I was like, thank you. It's the second time I've been told that, and that just makes me want to do it even more.
That lit the fire for you. I was going to ask that, is that something that maybe the reason why you were hearing you can't do that is because they wanted you to be with them or work with them or be part of what they were doing. So we see that sometimes, that often is the case, that, hey, stay here, stay in your lane. We're good here, right? Rather than trying something completely new.
Yeah, who wants competition? I mean, at that time too, right? There wasn't a lot of competition.
Yeah, you're aging yourself with some.
I know, but that's it's no mystery. Every day I get a little more gray hair. That's just the way it goes.
For those that can't see Adam, you mentioned fitness earlier. You still look. I can't see quite because your suit's on now, but you still look really fit. You still hit the gym a lot, and you're still working out.
Every day. It is not it's both my wife and I and the kids. It's all, we have a gym inside our house. They're in there in the morning with us. I ride I'm into, right now, I'll ride my bike or row. I make sure I do that every day, and I hit weights. I used to be a personal trainer, and so it's just kind of a lifestyle. It's not a thing to get in shape. I always, someone asked me once before when I was in my 40s, why are you doing this? Why are you training like this every day? Are you doing something? And I was like, no, man, I'm training for 40. I'm training for 50. I'm training for 60. And I want to try and stay. No one's going to beat Father Time. Everybody's lost, but I certainly want to give it the best shot I got at it. So I do, it is really important for me to even to the staff, we preach that all the time. If your body's right, your mind will be right. Mm-hmm. And you will have the energy to get in there, roll up your sleeves, and help clients.
That's really cool that you get your family involved as well. I'm sure that, leading from example, right? They see you doing it, see you keep it in shape. You're obviously older than your kids. So if you could do it, then they can as well, should be doing it.
Yeah, you got to temper it, right? It creates monsters. Yeah. My daughter is 6 and, likes to count 10, 15 pull-ups. She's she hits it harder than me sometimes. So it's
your 6-year-old's doing pull-ups?
Yeah, it's it's amazing and I love it. But I take a step back, or I show, I send a video to a friend, and they often say, "Man, you're creating a monster with that one." Like, she's up first thing, and I get up around 5:45. I'm in the gym before 6 or on my bike, and if I am, she's close behind me. She's in there with me in the morning.
Wow, that's incredible. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I don't think she could do one pull-up. But I've never even thought to let her try. That's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, she was really curious about it and just started cranking them out. So I was like,
that's awesome.
Knock yourself out.
For something like working out or any, I guess, competitive sports, for example, like in my own life, I found that really has given, like I played a lot of soccer growing up, a lot of competitive soccer, and that discipline is the biggest thing that I think I took from that coming into my professional life. Was that ability to do it when I didn't necessarily want to. And even if I hated it in the moment, just go through it and do the training and get it done. Is that a similar experience for you? Sounds like you enjoy it actually quite a bit.
I do. I played basketball, played at a higher level, and played to college. And then that kind of just carried on. I learned a lot when I did play about how important it was that, the athletic staff kept you accountable. And when I left there, that just kind of stuck with me. I remember my dad, I begged my dad to buy me the old concrete weight set at a flea market. And it was an old ratty bench and a couple of concrete weights. And kids today, right? I say to my son and daughter, "You got the internet, man.
Yeah.
How lucky you are." No one told me how to work out. I get a book from the library and read. So, I overdeveloped my chest at that age because I only just did bench press.
As you do.
It's not right. Yeah, right. That's it was one of those things that is just you get into it, and I had a friend that was into it, and it's just been something that is always. I'm blessed now today that not have to have a gym membership. I was doing that before COVID, so I built out a gym in my house. My wife also was a trainer, so she was into it, and it's been a great way to stay connected with her, and we work out together, and it's good. It's just you can really when I'm riding my bike at 6 o'clock in the morning, there's no one on the road. I really love it in the fall. It's a bit cold, and if it's rainy. And it's a chance for me. I listen to something. I might listen to a podcast, try and expand my mind. And that's just me and the bike, and nobody's really around where I ride. And it's just one of the greatest. That sets my day up. And I encourage my staff all the time. If I see them struggling, or we have conversations about it, because they come to me. We have another guy on the team, Marshall's really into fitness, and they'll come, and I love when they want to learn about it, and they want to change their habits, and they want to. We have a big. I'm known for training. That is one thing that we do at NewBorrow. We take new agents. We love when you're new to the industry, and we train and train and train. But it's not just sales. It's like health and lifestyle, and you got to be willing to buy it. You got to want to receive it and buy into it. And over time, a lot of people they change their whole life here. They change their health and their fitness and their financial goals. And they're into educating. They really want to help the client. That's the culture that we have here. And that's something that comes from me, because that's, when we started it, I'm leading it, and that's how I live my life. So people are naturally curious. And I love that.
Adam, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's something I was going to actually ask you anyway about. You have this background in training athletics and fitness. Is that those qualities that you've been able to sort of translate into your career and your professional life? Is that something now when you're hiring agents that you sort of curated what you look for in those people just coming into the industry? We talk a lot about having a sales and marketing background, maybe a finance background, but I think those might be even less important than, are you willing to learn, or sort of who are you, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you about? Is that something that you like? What do you look for when you're hiring a new agent?
That's a great question, because the process is very unique. In 2018, I looked at the floor, and I had a lot of mini-me's on the floor. So sales. And it was starting to show up in our Google reviews. They weren't starting to be in, like, I felt like I didn't get enough education. And I remember saying to someone on the floor, I'm the wrong guy to do the hiring, because I'm looking for someone that connects with just me. And while I am the client, and I'll never forget where I've come from and know the struggles, like my kids and my wife are in the commercial with the chicken head, right? It's like, it's my family. It's something that I live every day, and we have grown and learned better financial habits. And then I want to share those with people. I want them to be successful. And I want that for my staff. I want that for the clients. That I said, I'm the wrong guy to hire because I'm looking for a connection with just me. And there's 25, 35 agents on the floor, because it's also unique. We're in office on the floor in a big community trying to help each other, do deals, help clients. And I said, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to meet the person first. And I'm only looking for two things. Are you friendly? And are you coachable? I don't care about anything else. It doesn't matter to me. What matters if you're friendly with me at the first onset, and I think you're a good fit for the community, and this is the part I love, and I haven't hired a person since 2018. I just simply put you through to round 2, and in round 2, they meet 4 other agents off the floor in the community, and they interview them. And then they meet with me once a week and say, here's all the people that we met with. Here's our feedback. Here's what we think. And then they say yes or no. And it has created we're not all the same people. There's so many different walks of life because it's a different set of agents every time that do these group interviews. But it's such a tight community. So and I'll give you an example of why that's been so powerful. I took everybody away on the team last year for our 10-year anniversary.
And how many agents? How many people?
That was, at that time, they took their spouses as well because it was a big 10-year celebration. So I think it took 60 people to a resort, and we stayed there for 4 days, all total. And everybody came back even tighter than they left. And that speaks to how we do the interview process, because we're only looking for 2 main things. And people, I don't tend to get a lot of seasoned agents, even though I would take them. But they don't strike me, or they come across and they are honest with me. Some of them say, no, I want to do it the way I do it. I work from home. And I'm like, oh, then we're just not the right fit. And that's okay. I'm looking for somebody who has, oh man, if you're in the restaurant interest or hospitality and you've gone through those trials and tribulations with customers, man, I want to speak to you so bad, because that mindset is so translatable on the phone. I can teach you yesterday I did a group training, and I said to them, put your hand up if I hired you for your experience. Nobody puts their hand up in that meeting. And I said, no, right. I hired you because you care about people. That's the number one thing. Are you friendly and care about people? And will you take the coaching? Because the computer does your job for the most part. And it's only going to get more and more computer-based, where it's generating the deal for you. Now you have to be able to translate that and help and coach the client onto why it makes more sense to take a 3-year term rather than a 5-year, or why you shouldn't do the home equity line of credit because it reports to your bureau. Maybe you should do something different this time.
I think, Adam, that's a really important, that message that you said. You said a lot there, but I think it's really important for those that are considering this career right now. And one thing that we hear at REMIC a lot doing the course is, I'm really concerned about interviewing. I don't know what I should be saying. I don't know what I should put on my resume. I'm not sure what should be in my cover letter. I don't have any experience with finance. I don't necessarily have any experience in marketing. And I think what you just said is not necessarily unique in the industry. That it is, do you care about people, like you mentioned, right? What is your ethic? Like, what is your discipline like? I think the coachable thing is a really big one. And then, the brokerage will have to back it up with mentorship and actually have that culture. And I think that's something that you can assess as well. But it really is about mindset and about discipline. And I love that you mentioned friendly and caring about people, things that are not necessarily soft skills and can't be, taught to someone, right? That if you have that, everything else, or most of the things you can teach, and you can go through training and mentorship to get that. So I love that. I love that you built that community and culture.
You just touched on it. I rely on REMIC, and then when I talk to agents who are new but don't have licensing yet, I steer them to you, and I say, it's created, Remic, what I love about it, it's created with the agent in mind, not the industry or the education. So it lays it out a lot more human, one-on-one. Here's the steps. Here's the theory. Here's the steps. Once you have that, we're going to untrain some of that, and we're going to train you the way we do it anyway. So it becomes this perfect marriage of the industry that you need, the baseline of the information you need from Remic, and then what we're going to do, and then I'm accountable. I tell you up front, if you don't want to sit there at 2:00 and read a children's story to 40 other people, then I'm not the place for you, because that's what you're afraid of, and you don't understand that tonality lets the client know, because you're doing it over the phone or you're doing it like this, that tonality is the intention. That's the only way they know what you mean. You can be a robot and you can talk about mortgages and all the complicated stuff that goes with it, or you can, understand that tonality and connection is more important in today with the interest rates and what's going on. They need help. They don't need a mortgage. They need to know that what's next step, or these next 5 steps, or this. We talk about it on the phone all the time. In the biggest 90 billion in mortgage renewals, and the interest rate is double what it was when you took it 4 years, 5 years ago. The mortgage payment's going to double. Let's just talk about that first.
This is being talked about a lot in the industry now. You mentioned parts of it already. This, the role of technology and what will happen to the mortgage agent, the mortgage broker in the next several years. And then also, it really is now, everything is about human to human. And so there's really an opportunity there to actually leverage the tools, I think, on the back end, and then become a valuable advocate for your client. And
yeah,
I think that word. Is that something that you like? How do you see things progressing in the next year, in the next 3 years, 5 years? Like, what do you see happening?
Well, my older kids accused me of being an AI nut at first, because I was really interested in it. We use AI. We even use AI to make phone calls, to try and connect with people. I wrote the scripts, and here's the beauty of AI. If you have somebody who cares and has a certain style and develops those scripts and doesn't leave it to the robot, you actually connect with people. Our history shows that we have 5 to 7 minute conversations with AI before they're ready to transfer to a live agent. I don't do that to sell something. That's the misnomer in the industry. It's going to do your mortgage for you. Sure, it's going to spit out numbers. But Kane, you and I both have to have the documents to back up the numbers we put in. That's going to take a human to verify, at least have a conversation. And it's never going to be perfect at giving you the lowest rate possible you qualify for 100%. Where is it going to tell you that it makes sense to do it one way or the other based on just your unique needs? I'm going to be a pretty deep dive into AI. And I'm not going to say it's never going to happen. So I like your idea. I'm going to leverage the tools I can. The people in the industry are going to do. You're going to leverage the tools that you have that make sense to maybe speed things up or cut out the mundane day-to-day. If you're not already putting your app into the system and you're not already doing these things, separating documents, that's great. AI can help me and do those type of things and program. Programmers love telling me all about what AI is going to do for me. But my agents, when they had a big conversation about it, and I said, hey, listen, by the way, AI is making phone calls on your behalf. They're calling leads. They're trying to get you connected. It's like nobody's going to, we call her Katie. Katie can make 5,000 calls in a minute and speak to 5,000 different people. It's a great added on value service for somebody we haven't been able to get a hold of who wants more information. It's not going to do your job. You have the human elements, especially to what we do. And I think that's important to understand. I don't do purchases, and I don't try and find you the lowest rate. Our team tries to solve the problem that you're faced with right now and look at the best possible scenario this year, next year, and the following year to get you to that ultimate goal, or whatever it is you said at the very first phone call you said you wanted. I want the lowest rate. I want a line of credit. I want the best mortgage rate. Amazing. We're going to get you there. But let's look at the steps you need to get there and how we can help you along the way. There's 30,000 client records now after a decade, and I have a full-time client care department that talks to those people the clients, to making sure that they're doing the right steps, that the accountability on NewBorrow's end, I've always believed, has to be at the highest level. Even when you're unhappy and you leave me a 1-star review and I answer all the reviews, that's fine. Let's figure out how we can fix it, if it's fixable.
Yeah,
I read all the reviews and I fix them, because that's also ties to our culture and to the whole, I don't want AI answering the reviews. It'll do it for me now. And everyone's like, it'll be so much faster if you just use AI. Well, where's the human touch on that?
Yeah, I think there, at least at this point anyway, there's definitely something missing with the bots and being able to converse, and that human spirit is missing, as same thing you've been saying. So there's also on the client side, there's a good chunk of people that just don't want to talk to a bot. And if they know they're talking to a bot, that they just immediately want to talk to a human, even if it seems indistinguishable. I'm curious about the phone thing, because we've been doing this for a while now, call outs and inbound as well. Providers for some of the software. How long have you been doing that for? And are you doing cold outreach with that, or is it inbound or outbound?
So if you've applied, if you've ever filled out a form, asked for more information, and you haven't been able to connect with our team, or it's just been a poor time, or whatever the case may be, we'll run that. We've been doing that now for maybe 8 months, and we're taking the database, we're putting it through. It was painstaking process writing out the knowledge base. If you're familiar with that, and you're doing you're doing the script, and you're constantly listening to phone calls, and we're trying to set up the live connect. And what's been powerful about it is the talk time. It's been really good. The amount of people that we weren't able to get a hold of that afterwards ask for the link to the application and fill it out, and then we're able to help them. Mm-hmm. Do I get people saying, "Oh, this is a robot, I don't want to talk to"? Absolutely, and I do the same thing. So it was a funny story. I came home from work, and my wife's like, "Man, if BMO calls me one more time, they're not listening to me on the phone. They just keep repeating the same thing." And I started laughing, and I'm like, "You're not talking. It's a robot. It's AI, and it's not picking up what you're putting down, and you're not giving it normal responses, and it's kind of stuck in this loop. So it just keeps saying, 'Are you sure you wouldn't like to speak to somebody? Yeah. Are you sure you wouldn't like to speak to somebody?'" So I agree with you. It's got a long way to go, but we've been using it now for about 8 months. It's been super successful getting a hold of clients, or making sure we answer questions, and then doing a live transfer. And that's all that I'm using it for.
Human transfer, right?
Yeah, the script has no sales in it whatsoever. Yeah. It's trying to find out if you're interested, if you need help, if you got we do free property reports and free video presentations, that you get one. If you didn't, would you like one? And it's been a great way for my agents who are already busy, because last month it was 4,000 and change in leads, people to talk to actually reached out to us.
Wow.
Which is enormous for 30 people.
That's huge.
And if I didn't have that layer of AI and be a little bit forward thinking about how we can best leverage AI to help clients and help our team connect with clients, it would just be wasted opportunities that we not get to, because it's just, sometimes if you work for us, you're on this team, it's not uncommon for you to get 70 to 80 leads a month. When we hire people, they're like, "I want more leads, I want leads, I want leads, I want leads," which is a big problem in our industry. Good leads, people who actually reached out. And I'm grateful that the brand has grown in a decade to what it is, that people hear us on the radio, see us on TV, and they know who they're talking to. But that's still, I don't think the new agent who's learning the ropes really can grasp that. If you're struggling in our system and you follow the system and you're struggling and you're overwhelmed, you'll still do 5 to 6 deals a month.
Yeah, and just to give some context, Adam,
crazy.
Yeah, for those coming into the industry, especially as new agents, as you mentioned, prospecting, lead generation is most likely going to be the biggest challenge. So if you join a brokerage that has really good support or help, or is providing leads, it can be, or is, a really big head start, especially if, and I know you do training as well, if there's training with that comes along with that, and maybe even, training on how to source your own leads as well, and get referral sources or whatever else you might be doing. So that's really, really good to hear. But Adam, I want to ask you about NewBorrow, because obviously now it's been how many years?
I'm going into year 11. So last year we hit a decade.
And what prompted you? Like, tell me the NewBorrow story. Like, how did you get in? How did you get involved? Why did you get involved?
Yeah. So at the top, we talked about how I was told, the origin story of me is, and it's a lot longer story than that, but I was told, no, can't do it. It's not going to work. Just, why would you want to do just, B space? It's a tough space. And when we started out, it was, I often tell the story. It was almost like the wild, wild west. You had low cost per lead on Google. Nobody was really doing Google AdWords, if you can really imagine that. I'm 53, so I'm not that old, but that 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, the mortgage rules had just changed, with your B20, and the space was just that's when it was really in its infancy. It was about to explode. So I knew I wanted to be in it. I was told I couldn't get in it. I had my business partner today, somebody that I'd met at another brokerage, and we were talking back and forth. And even then, we all went our separate ways, and I went and worked for another brokerage after that. And I remember having a conversation with my dad being like, at 90-10, I only need to do so many deals a year. And he's like, yeah, but where are you going to get them? You're going to get the people. And I coach football, and I talked about this in another podcast. So I had a database. Did that for 3 or 4 years. I had a database of parents that I could load into my thing and be like, hey, guess what? I'm a mortgage agent, which is what they tell you to do in other licensing courses. And it doesn't work. So I'm just trying to get started, trying to get this company off the ground. We finally reconnect, and we're like, listen, it's not working at your brokerage. It's not working at my brokerage. Let's take one run at this. We've been told we can't do it. This is how I think it should work. I think it should be laid out that it favors the agent, and we solve the number one problem. And I had a friend come to me a year ago who's like, hey, I want to open up this business, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to do. But I'm curious, NewBorrow's a really big business. Could you give me some advice? And I said, yeah, figure out the problem you can solve for the employee or the person you're going to hire. Because everyone else does, I have the lowest rate, I have the best product, we make the only widget in the world, you do it this way. That's not solving the problem. That's a process. And I think business owners get disconnected between processes, and processes are important versus a problem that you're going to solve for the person you put on the team. And then that's another drill down, because each person has a unique set of problems that you also have to try and work
and
with,
their problems
right?
change over time as well. So it really becomes an exercise, constant exercise.
It's just like a drill down over, constantly working. I make a point in the morning when I get here, I don't do anything. I walk the floor, talk to everybody. Gary V, thank you for that advice. That was some of the best, right? You start watching podcasts and you're like, yeah, they are the most important person. I've been accused by lenders and other lawyers that I'm too for the agent. And that is the greatest compliment they could give me. Thank you. Because that is the person who talked to the client, the homeowner, and has brought the opportunity to us to help them. So you should look at the broker. Broker it's a very powerful position. And so I'm getting off topic with you. But when I started it, that was the metamorphosis was, it's 3 guys in a small room in a closet. Here's what we think we should do. Here's what we learned at some of the other brokerages. Do they work? Don't they work? The industry's really ripe and brand new and just starting to gain momentum. And homeowners are starting to realize that the bank, they can get some different opinions from just dealing with just their bank. And it's starting to grow. And you're like, I'm learning on the fly. I have personal training and coaching experience and learning how to connect with people and helping them reach their fitness goals, and how I learned so much empathy from that business, which is a really hot word now, but 10 years ago, nobody was talking about empathy. And I learned that how powerful a human connection can be when you help them achieve a goal. And then I was in car sales and worked for Lexus and learned, I got told to get lost a million times selling cars. And I learned sharpen my skills on connecting with people in that industry. And I was in radio and TV. So now I have all this broadcasting experience that I'm not utilizing. And I was on the radio and TV, so I'm selling stuff. And how does this all go together? And how do I how do I push it all together to become a leader of this brokerage? So I still have the original drawing, Kane, which would blow you away, of what I thought the floor should look like, how many people we needed. I was watching football on a Sunday, and I took my kid's sketchbook, and I don't know where it came from, and I just started writing all this stuff down and calculating numbers and trying to figure out this formula. And I brought it to my partners, and they both looked at me and said, "You're crazy." We just moved into 8,000 square feet. I just signed, and that was in the new year. I just signed a secondary lease for adjoining space for another 3,000 square feet.
You just moved in 2024?
Yeah.
When a lot of people are sort of still downgrading post-COVID.
I don't have enough room for the agents that are coming here to join the team. And at 4,000 leads, I don't have enough agents to help everybody. And so when they say to me, "Oh, why are we expanding? Why are you hiring?" I'm like, imagine being in Tim Hortons, you're standing and it's packed, and they keep helping people in front of you, and you never get the answer or the drink or anything that you wanted.
Yeah.
How frustrated would you be? And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, that's your client. I know you think it's a lead. It's a person. It's somebody who shared their information or picked up the phone, had the courage to reach out. And now no one's talking to them. The greatest compliment we can get is someone said, "You called me too much."
I just want to unpack a little bit of what you said. And you mentioned
I talk too much, Kane.
Sorry. It's good. I think there's so much value in what you're saying. There's a few things I want to ask, but I want to start with, you mentioned empathy, and I think you're right. It's talked about a lot more now. I first started really hearing that from Gary Vee a number of years ago. Actually, you mentioned Gary Vee. Is that something like being empathetic and taking on that sort of mantle of really caring and actually genuinely caring about others, including your agents, which I think is an amazing philosophy? Is that something that came naturally to you, or is that something you learned that, hey, I should be doing this because it will give me better output in my business?
I think it's a natural. My children have empathy on steroids, because they're really intuitive. So it kind of doubled down generation to generation. My parents are. My dad is a self-grade, didn't go to high school, self-taught salesperson by listening to tapes, learned the power of speech, connection, and empathy. I got to listen to those tapes, which I thought was a punishment at that time, but it was a gift. Spending time with him, playing pool. Those masters of communication, Brian Tracy, all the sales stuff out there today is still all the backbone of that. And it was Brian Tracy probably had a previous backbone. It doesn't change. Human communication is the same. It just gets sharper. It just has nuance changes. And I remember doing, and you're going to laugh, but doing a group training in 2017. And I remember I was doing the hiring, so I started realizing I'm breeding this, the movie Boiler Room with Ben Affleck and Glengarry Glen Ross. I'm breeding these salespeople who are like, sale. And I'm like, they need to learn some empathy, because you're dealing with job loss, divorce, complicated situations with equity, and it's their house, and they put their kids to sleep at night, and it's not sales. And I remember in a training playing Curious George and waiting for the sales staff to finally be like, "Why are we watching Curious George?" I'm like, the monkey can't talk, and it demonstrates empathy by making sounds through the entire. That is an empathetic monkey. If you can't pick up on that, you are lacking empathy, and you need to start at the ground level of empathy and realize how powerful it is and how needed it is. And that was in 2017. And I said, in the industry that you're in right now, it's very rate focused. That's what it was in 2017, 2010. Your only angle or only benefit or value added service was, I can get it lower than the bank. I realize, and I tell people when I do interviews, I've done thousands of mortgages, has had nothing to do with interest rate. It's about what is the situation, what empathy do you require, what guidance do you need, and to be a really good guide, and excuse my language, to give a shit about people and the situation that they're in is the most powerful thing our industry can really do for somebody. Because the more I started infusing empathy into the brokerage and into the coat of arms, until this is what we believe in. And I'll tell you a story, a follow-up story to that really quickly that really drove it home, is that's how we're going to be different. When you call in, when you're someone who calls in, my team's instructed, you do not ask about property details. You find out, you have a conversation. And it's very difficult because the client on the other end is like, no, I just want to know the rate. I don't want to have this conversation about my family or what I want to do. They stay at it. They want to make sure that they're getting the story behind the opportunity to help. Because if you don't know the story, you can't help. They're all in a current state, future state. They're trying to figure out where they want to go. And if you don't stop, pause, and care about the person and demonstrate the empathy that you have for them in the situation, you're just transactional. And that's not what this business is. It's not a transaction.
We talk a lot about this, and exactly what you said is that, as brokers, agents, we're not order takers, right? We are really experts of our craft, and having the ability to make assessments and ask questions and demonstrate empathy. Is that something that you found? Has it been difficult to instill that value in someone to get them to actually, as you said, give a shit, or is it maybe they can go through the motions and it'll still be as effective? Like, curious to know how did that?
Yeah.
How has that been for you since you sort of started that?
Well, here's the easy answer. A lot of those original people are no longer with NewBorrow because they couldn't adapt. They thought it was quirky. They thought it didn't make sense. It wasn't necessary. I do a group 2:00 Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. None of it is, not a single word is spoken about, Bank X has this particular program and this is the interest rate and this is how it works. This is what's happening. All of it. Yesterday's was vocal archetypes, what the 4 main ones are and why you need to be able to communicate in all 4 at different times with your client to help them through the process. And if you don't do that and you don't buy into that, and that's not a skill you believe in that's transferable to anything you do in life, to working with your friends, your partner, your children, I don't know what you're doing here. Because you're communicating on the phone. First touch is on the phone. We don't do anything face to face. We were doing completely paperless before COVID. So going digital wasn't hard for us. We were already doing it. If I was to give you a tour of this space, our signing booths are soundproof booths. That's all they are, with the camera. And you got to be able to get in there right now and connect with that client. And so those original people just couldn't connect with that. And so to remove myself from the hiring, and I had the team that was real. I started with a hand-picked group of 4 that I knew these are the people that I want to, and I would love to clone. These are the people that I would love to represent the brand. How do I find more of them? Well, I put them in the interview position and they hire people that they connected with. And in a very short order, I have people here who survived the, empathetic and really bought in. I have some really long-term people like Alessandra and Christina and Jasmine and Rebecca and Taylor. Like they are this.
I noticed you mentioned all females in there.
Well, you want to know the truth? When I say it all the time when I'm in those groups, I know Ian's been here for a long time. There are people on the team that have been here for a while that are male too, but females are so wonderful at picking up and being empathetic and caring versus the pressure of a sales guy who's more focused on, like, we use this example all the time. A client says to you, and this is a big chunk of training for me. A client says to you, Kane, I need the money. I need to do this. We ran into some trouble. Our pet was sick and we ran it behind in some credit card bills and our mortgage renewal's coming up. We need to know what the best thing to do is. Typically, and I'm guilty of this when I was on the phones back in the day, oh, okay, well, I can find the best rate for you, da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
and the female says, wait a minute, what happened to your dog? What kind of dog is it? How sick was it? Oh my goodness, how did the family feel about it? And then that's not scripted. I say all the time, we were talking about it yesterday, about how come I don't have a script. Or I said, if I gave you a script, you wouldn't put the time into it to make it perfect, number one. You think of the best scripts or the best movies you've ever watched had a script, and they studied it and it was bang on, but it was only one play. It was only one movie. Each client is going to call in with a completely different set of problems, and I don't have a script for 5,000 different problems. What I want you to learn how to do is be a master communicator, and it starts with empathy and giving a shit, and then when you start, and listening. And so when I mention all the females, they're better listeners than I am. And they tend to do very well in this industry because of the fact that they listen.
That's what my wife tells me too.
Yeah,
it's interesting with the male female. We track a lot of the, at Remick we do the mortgage course for those coming into the industry, and we do track we do have a welcome survey in our course, and so we get that data to understand who's entering the industry, what are the demographics, and over the last I would say 10 years, and particularly in the last 5 years at the start of COVID, a much higher percentage of females and younger females, like younger than millennial, like 20s coming into the industry. And so it has changed things. And I think naturally, as you mentioned, there's sometimes a different mindset with females, and that translates very well. Just as you mentioned, is there anything else that you think, like coming into the industry, that you are seeing a certain type of person that would maybe do particularly well? Like, how has the industry changed for those that are coming in new from your perspective?
That's a great question, because what I see, I'll give you an idea. I have 3 empty desks right at this very moment. 2. I hired somebody yesterday.
It could be filled tomorrow.
Right? It could be, right? It's one of those deals. There's 2,100 applicants we started for those 3 desks. Is what happens is, it's a lot of people to go through, so it takes a longer process. Super grateful that many people are interested. That's amazing. But now, how do I find those people, and what's the trend? And we've talked about this a lot, but ours is so much different. You could be from any walk of life, my ad, if you read it on Indeed, is basically, it's all open casting. There's no, you want to be on the show, there's no prerequisite. Just apply and let's see what happens in the group interview. I mean, obviously we pare it down from location, or if they've said they only want to work out of office, those aren't a fit for us because we don't do remote. I did remote during COVID when it was required. We did 11 deals. This past month, we did 200. The impact is when they're at home, it's not that they don't work, they don't get the help that they need. So I worked at another brokerage that will remain nameless that had its own locked off underwriting department that you had no access to. So when you're working with I'm trying to get Kane and his wife, I'm trying to get you a mortgage, and I can't get an answer from anybody because there's nobody around. And one day turns into 2 days, 2 days turns into 4. Clients' momentum goes in the toilet. And so I'm looking for, can you be on site? Do you care? All these things. I don't know if because we're so unique, I don't think it's fair for me to say that there's a trend, because I'm only looking for 2 really simple things: coachable and friendly. And do you care? Like, it's such a wide open. I have, from 20 to 48 or 4. It doesn't matter to me. It's about the person. So I encourage people, when you're in the industry, to don't pepper your resume with a bunch of things that aren't important. Put some relatable skills, your job title. I respond better to a short resume and a really quick cover letter that basically says, and I have a girl right now from TD Bank that her email was, "You hire me, you won't regret it."
That's her email? Like at Gmail?
Yeah. No, when she opened up her cover letter, it was like, I opened it up and it said, "If you hire me, you won't regret it." It's like, okay, well, this is the person I want to talk to.
That's funny. Yeah.
Because that's interesting. And that's somebody who's read the job posting, put themselves out there and said, I have the skills. I am coachable. I want to learn. And when you're new in the industry, the things you should be looking for. So when I do an interview with you, I like you and I say I'm going to put you through to round 2, but you haven't finished the course yet. You're sometimes they're just thinking about getting into the course or the industry. I tell them, please do yourself a favor. Don't interview with just me. Take as many interviews as possible, because here's the mistake that you make, that new agents make. I see it all the time, and they're in and out of the industry off and on, or they go do something else because they didn't find a brand, a community, and a leader that they aligned with. They took the job for the split. They took the job for promised training. I can't tell you how many times I interview somebody and I'm like, so what do you think? Why are you leaving? I know that brokerage. It's a good brokerage. Well, I'm not getting the training. I feel alone. I feel like I don't get a lot of guidance. It's constant feedback. So I think on our spectrum, I probably drive you nuts with the amount of training that I want you to partake in. What on earth would you standing up in front of us at 2:00 doing a movie script that I gave you and me stopping and saying, no, you're not, there's no feeling behind that. You're just reading it. Do it again.
No heart.
It's, you are, your voice and your tone, and I put them through like a tonality class that I took, that I graduated from, that I'm now sharing with them, being like, no, tone is everything. Less than 10%, and you probably know the stat, less than 10% is actually, even in this podcast, will be consumed. It's the tone.
For sure.
It's the inflection, and it's what's happening that people are like, oh yeah, I connect with that.
It's the way they make you feel.
No, that's not for me. That guy's not for me. That's those things are so important. If you and I just did this hour just talking like this the entire time, nobody would be engaged.
We should try that. We'll do some A/B testing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm the wrong guy for that.
I just want to jump back to something you said about hiring, just to add something in there on the employer side. Like when we're hiring, something we learned several years ago, because we had the same thing. We would put out a job posting, and very similar. We didn't have a massive amount of parameters, even for a technical role. It was like, well, it's more about who you are and what you can do. And so what we started doing was the first application would be a 1-minute video. So we built an interface where they would record a 1-minute video and basically tell them, like, tell me who you are and why you want to work here. And that would be our initial screen. And first of all, that would eliminate like more than half of the applicants, because a lot of people just aren't going to do that. And that already tells us something. And then so the ones that did, you kind of know sometimes right away if it's going to be a fit for the culture, just based on, certain things about the first minute they're talking. And so that enabled us to cut another half out right there. And then we could go through the resumes and go through everything else like we did. And that put it in a quarter. So it worked really well for us.
Yeah, really well I'm going to borrow that, Kane. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Especially because ours is all digital. So we're looking for, I'm going to teach you presentation skills. So you don't have to like blow me away the first time on camera.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to really work with you. But that's a great idea. We'll talk after.
I'll show you some of the software that we use to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Still do it now. There's something else that I wanted to ask you, and you touched on it a little bit. I'm wondering if for those coming in, again, that are maybe brand new to the industry or thinking about coming in, when they're researching a brokerage or when they're interviewing with a brokerage, I mean, you mentioned a couple of things, but what do you think they should be looking at? What do you think they should be looking for? Are there any particular red flags? Is there anything that you would say, you know what, because of this, maybe don't go to that brokerage? Is there anything that you can think about that would help them make that decision when they're looking?
Well, let's start off with, I'm going to be biased. I think we are a learning shop. When I'm in the industry and I'm talking to other people, like, how do you do what you do? And look, I am really excited about being a place to come and learn. If you end up learning a bunch of the industry and you leave, it's great. I have like 2% turnover rate. It doesn't happen. That's why I now have 8,000 square feet. I alluded to it, said it previously. You gotta find out if the principal broker is even available. Does he or she show up every day, come to work? Are they in another industry? Where's their alignment with the team? And please, as an industry, we've got to stop calling lunch and learns from a lender as part of training. It is not useful if you were to talk to some of my big partners, Haven Tree is one of them, they know they don't come in here. They certainly don't come in and do, a lunch and learn and talk about their product. I'm talking about we're training you on the floor every day. Product knowledge is the procrastination king. You don't know enough about it, so you don't pick up the phone. It's the problem behind there, the team that's on the floor. So I would encourage people to align yourself with the leadership. That's what's going to get you through the really tough day. There's going to be deals that fall apart. There's going to be clients that don't answer. There's going to be things that happen. It's a frustrating business for both the client and the broker, because we're the ones together trying to make the lender see you in the best light and happy. It is a thankless job sometimes, because at the end they're like, well, I don't even know what my broker really did. Align yourself with the leadership. This is why another part I tell people, when we do our round 2, you should be interviewing us. We're trying to hire you, not you're trying to get a job. So you should be interviewing all 4 people you get to see and be like, hey, is the principal broker okay? Because I met him and he seems a little out there. What's it like? Can he really be that nice? Does he really like coaching? Why do you work there? Those questions you find out, you get on the 3rd or 4th day of working for another brokerage, and they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm leaving. I don't know why you came here.
That is such good advice, Adam. And you guys do that. You interview with several of your agents. You mentioned 4 of them at a time. A lot of brokerages don't do that. So something else that we always give as a piece of advice is pick up your phone and call some of the agents of the brokerage you're considering joining and just say, hey, my name's Kane. Thinking about coming into the industry with your brokerage. How is it there? Do you like it? How long have you been there? Most agents, especially if there's any sort of issue, are more than happy to talk, and you can get really good, high quality, honest information by doing that. So I love that advice. And Adam, it's so easy to talk to you. We've already hit an hour.
I'm sorry.
Is there anything else or any last sort of advice or information you want to leave our listeners with?
Let's take it from if you're thinking about joining or getting into the industry, it is a great time. And I know that if you read the news and you read everything that's happening and all the doomsday information that's out there on your Apple News or whatever the case may be, it's not accurate. It is a really great time to get in the industry if you are passionate about helping people. And I think when I talk to some people about, even just friends I have or in the certain circle I'm at, and they're like, oh yeah, like, how are you guys doing? Interest rates are so high. It's got to be so tough. It's just a mindset. I care very little what's happening in the outside world. I care what's happening inside NewBorrow. If we are all on the same page, you end up accomplishing great things. And I would encourage people to shut off the noise, because if you can learn to fall in love with helping people, this is a very interesting, never boring, super satisfying industry, because it never is the same day twice, and it's always changing. And I think that without a high barrier to entry, you can align yourself with the right team, and you can attract a lot of very interesting people who can flourish. People on my team flourish in this industry because they are so keen on connecting with people. And that's a really unique industry if you can avoid the noise.
Adam, I don't think it's going to be said any better than that. Thank you so much for being here. It's really easy to see how you found so much success and built such a wonderful community and culture. I love the philosophy of empathy. I love the philosophy of caring for your agents. And I can see, again, how that would translate so well into your business. So congratulations, and thank you again for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Next time maybe we'll do it with Joe. I've never met the man. I message him. I've had email exchanges, but he is right now somebody has eluded me.
We'll do it with Joe. Thanks, Adam.
100%. Yeah, great. Thanks, man.
Thanks for tuning in to the $1 Billion Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
For more in-depth entrepreneurial insights, follow us on social media, and for more info on the show, go to billiondollarpodcast.com.
See you next time.